Okay, so that was what I had by way of warm-up. Let me move on now then to introduce the CSCCE community participation model. So I wanted to start right at the beginning here, and I wanted us first of all to consider, well, why do we need such a model? You know, why do we need some more formalized way of talking about member engagement within communities? And I think this boils down to three interrelated reasons. So the first of these is it enables us to get clear about what we mean by community. So those of you who've heard me talk about community before will know that, you know, I'm well aware that the word community has become really overextended. You know, we use it often to refer to users of a website, to people who purchase a particular product, right through to people who are actively working together in a community of practice. And they're obviously quite different contexts and quite different levels of engagement. So how can we actually distinguish what's going on in those different examples and what strategies we might need to use in order to support them? Or another way of asking this is a broadcast channel, something like a monthly newsletter, something that we think about in the same way as a highly active Slack group? No, probably not. And then if you're coming to a community as a community manager, maybe you're inheriting a community, this is a community that already exists, how can you find out where it is that you're starting from? You know, what is that community that you're now going to begin to work with? So having a model to examine these activities and to describe what the engagement between members looks like can be really helpful for us to intentionally assign resources, so to know that we're able to support wherever it is that we want that community to go. It can help us to be strategic in our programming, so the things that we are spending staff time organising to empower community members are actually empowering, they are actually things that the members need. And that then serves to help the community collectively, the members collectively, to achieve the overall goals of the community. So a lot of this is about being clear, it's about adding legitimacy to what we do and being very strategic and therefore effective in our roles. The second part of this, which is related but distinct, is all about setting expectations. So some of the modes in the model can take longer to get to for a range of reasons. That can include things like the need to build trust between members, the need to build infrastructure collaboratively, and therefore build up to being able to do something that is a bit bigger and a bit more collaborative or in the co-create realm. And as I mentioned, different modes can require different infrastructure and different governance, right? And negotiating that governance, especially when it becomes about distributing power among the membership, is also something that takes time and also needs expectations to be set. So having a model that helps us to describe what's required in each of those modes means that we as community managers can set expectations with our managers, our supervisors, with funders that we may be promising the transformative outputs of a mature community to, and other stakeholders that are engaged with the project. And then finally, having a model to refer to also allows us to be a little bit diagnostic, right? So it allows us to look at a community that perhaps has gotten stalled. You know, maybe members are persistent in a particular mode of engagement with one another, but that mode is out of alignment with the mode that you need to be in order to really advance the overall community goals. So having a language to talk about that, having a model to look at and to identify where the barriers are, can really help you then to get strategic about making adjustments to your overall community strategy and helping to reignite the activities in the community. And so one way that we can rephrase this is saying the role of the community manager, the person convening and working to support and empower community members, is to lower the barrier to participation in whichever of the modes of the community participation model that you're wanting to get into in order to support the overall goals of the community. So you've got to get clear on which modes you need to achieve your goals. And then as a community manager, you need to think about, well, how can I make it as easy as possible for members to enter into those modes and enjoy being there? Okay, so that's a lot of warm up as to why we need the model. Here is the model itself. So there's quite a lot here, and I'm going to take the next few minutes to walk us through the various different aspects of this image. And this is obviously in the guidebook, and it's also up on the website. So what you'll see across the top of the page here is a spectrum of ways of information transfer occurring in the community. So we go from transmissive, so broadcast, pushing out information, to transactional, which is a kind of controlled, convened, clear set of understandings about what the back and forth is, to transformational information exchange. So really when we start building something brand new together, when both parties who are involved in the exchange, or all parties that are involved in the exchange, are leaving in some way changed by the interaction, in some way transformed. What we see across the middle of the diagram here are the four primary modes that we see occurring within the community. So modes that a community manager might use to communicate to the members, and that members use to communicate to each other. So that's convey, consume, then we move to contribute, collaborate, and co-create. And then we've got these kind of schematic network diagrams below to capture a little bit about what the interactions between members and the convening organization and members and each other look like. So in the center, we have the community manager or the convening organization, and then members are represented around the outside. And the sizing of this convening organization is very intentional, right? So it's the dominant size here in the first two modes, gets a little smaller in collaborate, and then is almost equal, almost on parity with the size of the community members once we're getting into the co-create mode. And then what we see down the bottom here in the table are various different ways that we can describe, that we can think about these different modes of interaction. So we've got a single word key phrase to describe the quality of interactions. We have the community management goal within the community, the actual activities that might exemplify this particular mode, the power balance between the organization, the convener, and the members, and a slogan that the organization might think of, that you as a community manager might think of in terms of what is happening in this particular mode. So let's walk across the diagram. So we start in convey consume, and we can think of this as being, like I said, a broadcast mode. It could be something like a monthly newsletter. And so it's a one-to-many type communication. And really the community management goal of this is to inform and inspire. So why do you send out a monthly newsletter? You want to let people know about the cool stuff that's been going on, or you want to invite them, inspire them to come along and perhaps engage in the contribute mode by coming and attending a webinar, or by coming and joining a particular discussion that's happening within the community forum. And so some examples of activities in this convey consume mode are, we want community members to read the email, or if it's a video, to watch it, or if it's a podcast, to listen to it. So you get the idea. It's interactions that occur without community members actually interacting with each other. It's that the convening organization, the community manager, is pushing information out to those folks. So we can think of this as the organization, power balance is positioning the organization as the expert, even if just temporarily. They're the purveyor of information, the synthesizer, if you like. And that the slogan could be, here's something interesting. Here's something that we think you might be interested in, that we think you should know. As we move across to contribute, well, then it shifts, right? So the organization is then saying, well, hey, we want to convene, we want to invite you in to actually do something. So this really can be summarized as, give us some feedback, give us some input of some type. And so that might be add a comment on a blog post. That might be vote, like, add an emoji on something. That could even be in a citizen science project, an online platform, tag something, tag all the penguins that you see in this picture. And again, you might be doing this as individual community members without interacting with each other, but you're starting to contribute towards something that together is going to be greater than anything that you could have done by yourself. So you're starting to get to this idea of collaboration, which is where we move to in the next mode. So in this mode, we can think of the convening organization as providing the scaffolding, I use this word a lot, for a kind of convened cooperation, bringing folks together, starting to signpost the ways in which collaboration can happen. And that means that the organization probably still owns the platform in some way that the collaboration is taking place on, that, you know, the organization has some stake in setting this up. But there's starting to be, rather than a kind of a push channel or a clear directive with the slogan, it starts to become a question. How can we work together? What is it that we can do in collaboration? And you might, towards the end of this collaborate phase, start seeing community members interacting with each other without the input of the organization, without the input of the community manager. That scaffolding's there, and now we can start doing things by ourselves. And at that point, we then shift over into the co-create mode. And that's where really the organization is then shrinking down into this position where the power balance is now at near equity. And so there's mutual learning and sharing happening in multiple directions. And we're really getting into this transformational realm that I mentioned at the beginning. And so you can think of this as being, you know, where synthesis is happening, where it's not just a case of saying, you know, here's chocolate and here's hazelnut, and we'll end up with chocolate colored hazelnuts. It's let's smush them together and make Nutella. And so then the question here becomes, what shall we do next? So we don't presuppose the path. We don't even presuppose the outcome here in the co-create phase. And so we start getting comfortable a bit with ambiguity in the community, and the idea that together we can create something, we can do something that we definitely couldn't have done alone, and that we're not even sure exactly what it's going to look like. And so not all communities get to this stage, and not all communities necessarily need to get to this stage in order to achieve the particular goals that they have in mind. And then finally, the fifth mode is a mode that operates both within but also externally to the community. So this is the champion mode. And this is really about empowering the emergent leadership, or the super users, if you like that phrase, who are rising up from within the community itself. So the people that are stepping up saying, I know some people that should be part of this conversation, I want to invite them into the community. Or I'm really loving the resources that we've created here together, so I now want to share that out into other communities that I belong to. Or I want to step up and help organize an unconference session. Or I want to be the co-lead of a working group and help advance a particular area forward with other people in the community. And so this champion mode is really important. It's really, really important for the long-term sustainability of your community. It's really important in terms of advancing the mission of what your community is for. You know, the community manager is not there to do all of that work. They cannot do all of that work. And really the community manager is about empowering that leadership that is emerging from within the community, and then keeping everybody else connected with what is going on by providing that scaffolding and infrastructure that enables folks to collaborate together easily. Okay, so that, I'm aware of the time, that's all I wanted to say about the model today. Obviously there's a lot here, and we could really spend an hour and a half going into all the different nuances of this. But if you're intrigued and you want to learn a bit more, then first thing I recommend is sign up for our Community Engagement Fundamentals course. So the model forms a large part of that. This is a course that we're going to be piloting this for, exclusively for members of our community of practice. So we're actually running 3 courses this fall. This Community Engagement Fundamentals is one of them. All of those courses are currently oversubscribed on pre-registration. But if there really is enough interest, we will think about running the courses twice. So drop us an email at info@cscce.org, and we'd be happy to hear from you and show you how it is that you can pre-register your interest. And then, of course, do download the guidebook if you haven't already. Consider the FAQs that we work through as part of that guidebook, and then feel free to bring them back to the Slack group. You know, very happy to continue the conversations there, and to pull in various people who have experience using the model in their communities, who can talk to the various different modes and what they look like in their communities. Okay, so that was all I wanted to say. Anybody have any questions? We've probably got time to take 1 or 2 quick questions.